Welcome to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast, the first podcast to highlight the CAA experience. I'm your host, Mary Jean, and I've been a Certified Anesthesiologist Assistant for close to 2 decades. Throughout my journey and struggles, I've searched for guidance that includes my unique perspective as a CAA. At one of my lowest points, I decided to turn my passion for storytelling and my belief that the CAA profession is uniquely able to create a life by design into a podcast. If you are a practicing CAA, current AA student, or someone who hopes to be one, I encourage you to stick around and experience the power of being in a community filled with voices who sound like yours, sharing experiences you never believed possible. I know you will find yourself here at the Awakened Anesthetist podcast. Welcome in. Hello, Awakened Anesthetist podcast listeners. Welcome to yet another bonus episode in November. I went a little crazy and, the stars kind of aligned and was able to have some really cool interviews and put out some extra episodes this November. So I hope you're loving the extra content and finding it useful. This was a conversation I had with Chabely Rodrigez about a week before this launch. So this all happened really quickly because Chabely was just featured on CNBC's Millennial Money feature, which is like a YouTube series that they do. And just a little bit about Chabely. She's a really new CAA. She actually just graduated from Nova Fort Lauderdale in 2021. And she's been working in Tampa, Florida as a full-time CAA. She has a YouTube channel where she focuses on, day in the life CAA stuff, what it feels like to be a CAA, what it looks like to be a CAA, her journey into it. And also she talks a lot about financial literacy and financial independence. In just 2023, she paid off her $200,000 of student loan debt, which means she did that in less than 2 years after graduating. She's just such an important advocate for our CAA profession and a guiding light in what it means to be a really thriving CAA. So I was so excited to have the opportunity to ask her a bunch of behind-the-scene questions, which I think are really fun. So I hope you find this casual, unedited, impromptu conversation really inspiring and fun. So let's get into it. Okay. Welcome to Awaken Anesthetist. I'm your host, Mary Jean. Today, we are joined by Chabely Rodrigez, who's been a CAA for 2 years and was just featured on CNBC's Millennial Money series on YouTube. You might have caught it, or you might have seen a bunch of us talking about it on Instagram, but I really was just introduced to Chabely, a couple of months ago maybe, when we both realized that we are passionate about creating CAA-specific content and really filling a void that we see for CAAs talking about our own profession and really putting correct information out into the world. So we are approaching it from different angles, but I'm so excited to support Chabely and the work she's doing. And this little bonus episode is really going to be about the behind the scenes of her feature on CNBC and, what it felt like to be her, and also a little bit of what she's found in putting herself out there with then having to answer a lot of comments and maybe some quote unquote hater comments, and really how she's navigating that as a CAA. So welcome, Chabely. I'm really excited to ask you a whole bunch of questions.
Thank you so much for having me. I think you do great work as well. So it's like an honor to be part of, your series and your podcast.
Thank you. Why don't you just real briefly tell us what school you went to? You just graduated, but give us a little bit of that tactical CAA stuff.
Yes. So I went to Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, and I graduated in 2021.
Gotcha. Okay. And Chabely also has a YouTube channel called CAA Lifestyle, which I'll link all of this in the show notes. And in my mind, these two things, the thing you just did with CNBC and your CAA lifestyle, maybe are overlapping, but tell us just briefly why you started and when you started CAA Lifestyle.
I actually recorded a few videos when I was interviewing and going through that process. And during school, I've recorded stuff, but I was always really scared to post anything. So I didn't post anything until I graduated and started working. And I still felt like there was a deficit of CAA content, not just with how much money we make, but also what a day in our life looks like. As someone that was looking into AA school, there were hardly any real people that I saw in the field. And so I felt like I wanted to be that person to kind of fill some of the need and show an example of what a real person that is a CA looks like.
Awesome. Yeah, I just as like a regular CAA came across your work on YouTube because when I was thinking about starting this podcast, I was like, okay, who else is doing this? I'm like, nobody's talking about us. And I found you, luckily, and maybe one other person, and just the void is so big for people to find out more about CAAs from CAAs. So I'm just so appreciative that you took that step into fear and posted it. When was your first post? You saved these recordings, and then when did you post them finally?
I did my first one in February 2022, but I have some recordings even from school that I'm like, I cringe sometimes in my old recordings and, my younger self. So I still have some stuff from like the past that I haven't really posted, but I posted a little bit of like my younger self.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's really vulnerable. It's so vulnerable to put yourself out there, no matter what your platform is or what you're speaking about or on. But yeah, especially when you're like the only one doing it, which you have been for quite some time. So I recognize and I see that it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of vulnerability. So thank you. Um, I want to talk about what this CNBC Millennial Money series is and what it meant to you to be on it. So first, can you just tell us, when did you discover this? What is this series on CNBC meant to do in the world?
So I came across the series as in my undergrad, and I loved the series, always was a fan of it. Part of what has made my finance journey, I think, has been influenced by the series and like seeing people react to how people spend their money. And so eventually I went to A school and I put out my own channel and I like talked about my finances, how I spend my money. And so I feel like a lot of people were really intrigued by that. And someone came up to me and DM'd me and said, you should be on this series. And I said, I would love to, but I don't even know like how it happens. And this wasn't like the first time someone really told me to do that. But they were like, oh, like you just have to apply to it. And they sent me the link. And then I like looked at the link and I wrote out some of like my life story on it and my finances and different decisions. And I just like sent it in while I was working on it while I was on the Quad A meeting. The fall fundraiser meeting or something like that. And I was like working on it on the side, like in my vacation. And then I submitted it. And then like a week later, I got a notification that I got an email from them that they like wanted to meet up and interview and like start the process. And yeah, so.
Oh my, Chabely. I'm a big manifestation person. I kind of put that out into the world on my own podcast. Like that's something I really believe to be true is that when you're walking your aligned path, what's right for you just comes your way. And it's not just by like chance and like, oh, I'm just sitting here staying stagnant and the good things happen to me. It's like when you're stepping in the direction, when you feel like you're worthy of something and you're taking aligned action to do that thing, it comes back to you what's meant for you. I see that so clearly in your story. I just got excited for you basically. But I am really into behind the scenes. I love that type of content. I would love to hear from the time that they said, okay, you're going to be on the show, then it sounds like they probably had to dive into your finances. They had to check and double check some things. Like what was that beginning process like? How long did that take?
Yes. First, I interviewed with the interviewer that is, she writes their articles and stuff. And she said, I think you're going to be approved for it. Like from what we've talked, I think you will be in. I was really excited, but like nothing was confirmed. And then maybe a few days later, I got emails like, yes, you're going to be approved. Like send us your W-2 statements, send us like your student loan, send us your bank account, like summaries and like all your credit cards, send your statements for the past month. And so I actually was working on all of that, but not only did I like work on 1 month, I looked at like my full year and like my whole Saturday, like I also was watching TV at the same time. So I like went through every single month and I saw like, oh, okay, what's this expense? And I put it all in categories on my own in my own Excel sheet. And I also sent them for September. And I sent them summaries and I just went on vacation and I like told them this is how I spent my vacation money. And I'm like, but like for September, I told them too, this was a month that I got paid 3 paychecks. So it might look like I make extra money too. and there were special circumstances behind it. So here's like my typical month statement.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent them both, but I think ultimately what they could fact check would be easier to do 1 month versus like 12 months of like bank accounts and stuff. And so they said, no, we're going to stick with the September month, which looks like I make a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
People are also like, wow, like really thrown off too by how much it was. But um, they looked at that month and just everything that like W-2s, I had to block out my personal information, but I just sent them everything as much as I could to, I was honest with everything that I was telling them. So I like, they would tell me, send us this now. I sent it to them like almost within a few days, like just back and forth. And the process went by really quick. I was surprised that it was like maybe 2 weeks or something, like everything was just almost ready to film. And then continuing on, they said, okay, we're ready to film this episode. Can we film it this weekend, basically? And I was like,
Whoa.
I was like, well, we can. I'll be in New York City to visit my boyfriend. And they're like, oh, that's perfect. Like, we're going to film you with your family. We're going to film you with your boyfriend. And we'll do our interview in New York. And so, like, we squeezed it in, like, to my I work 410. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a 4-day work week lined up. And so, like, we squeezed it into one day. And then we filmed in New York City. We did my interview in New York City. And then they also sent someone to Tampa that they were just going to film me in Nova, which I also had, like, that was its own thing to figure out too. But they like also filmed me for a different day. And so it was like a month of like on the weekends, just like dedicating a bunch of hours, like almost like a work day to either like fact checking stuff or filming stuff, doing my interviews. And yeah, just finally it all came together like in a month.
Wow, that's impressively quick for on their end, just that they're only a month ahead of their content, really. Like that feels like a pressure cooker. Interesting. I guess that makes us feel better about our content. That we're like, we only have to be a few weeks ahead. Wow, okay. I have a bunch of questions. So the focus, as you had said, was this September 2023. Like we're recording right now in November 2023. So you sent them all this back data. They focused on September 2023. Is that where they came up with the headlines, this 28-year-old makes $210,000? Is the 210 the whole your W-2, or that was factored in September?
So that was from my 2022 pay, like overall income was about $210,000. And yes, we went based off that number, but there are a couple reasons why I made more this year. So, and I was telling them, I was like, I wasn't sure what number to tell them. So we just went with 2022 because we were filming in like October. And so there's still another few months of the year, and I think I'm going to make more, but we'll just go with like the verifiable information.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so interesting because I think, as a content producer, they want to have a big splash. Like they want to put maybe the biggest number. And we're also, you and I currently are talking after everything's been released, after we've both seen all the comments that your series episode received. And a lot of people were doing the math and saying, well, September's budget doesn't add up to $210,000 yearly. And she's lying and all this stuff. And people, first of all, I was really interested that people did all that math and cared that much and like were fact checking on their own. I'm like, interesting. And I just think that human nature of you see something good someone else has and you think, oh, they're faking it, they're fraud, they're lying, because what you're really feeling is some jealousy that you want that too, which your episode is supposed to be about. This is possible. You can do this too. And people who aren't at a place to receive that feel like, oh, well, she just, so I was seeing all the psychology behind it. And I want to talk about that as well. But in terms of the logistics, I would love to hear how it felt to know you're going to be on, can we call it national TV, right? That's what this is. This is a national TV, huge broadcast agency. Like, how did you prepare yourself? Were you like, oh, I'm just going to go as is? Like, what? Tell us.
I'm almost like a last minute preparer. I'm just kind of like, you know what? I gave them the information. Like, I'm more so prepared in the pre-interview than the actual interview because I was like, this is my shot to sell my story. So I like that whole weekend, I kept saying like, this is what I'm going to tell them about myself. And I was preparing a lot for the pre-interview. And then finally, when the actual interview came, I had just worked a lot. Like, we're working people. So it's not, I have my time off and I could just, I do this all the time. So I was working that full week. My 410s, maybe I did a little bit of overtime. And then I like flew in the night before. I also had to catch up with my boyfriend. We're in a long distance relationship. And I was like, oh, I'm interviewing in like 15 minutes. Whatever I get done, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to do my best. And it almost sometimes feels like no one's listening. And then sometimes I get surprised that like, oh, wow, like it had the impact that it did. I kind of just say it like I'm just by myself, almost how I would talk. So it's still kind of a shocking that it has had the impact that it has had. Because I still feel like I'm living my life. And I don't think it would make me famous or anything like that. But I just feel like things are still normal in my daily life. But so many people have told me that they've heard the story in different ways. So it's like we're in this, it's just me and you talking, but we don't know who it might reach, which kind of amazes me in that way.
Yeah, totally. Like, everyone can listen to this and pull something different out of it, or see your piece and pull something different out of it, a different source of inspiration, or like the thing that matters to them is not the thing you were trying to get across, but it was some other adjacent thing. Yes, so true. Were you saying that you found it interesting that the interviewer was listening? Sometimes you were shocked that they like really honed in on a piece of your story you weren't expecting. Is that kind of what you were first alluding to?
Well, yes, that too. Like sometimes I feel like my story was something that I envisioned that is a little different. And then like the interviewer picks up on something different. And then I feel like the editors and then people that hear it will pick on different things. So it's just interesting how there's like so many in production, there's a lot of different phases to it. And then what comes out like also impacts people in different ways than I would think.
Yeah. And what did you feel about the way the final production came out and turned out? What was your initial reaction when you saw it? And then like, since it's been out in the world some, what's your reaction to, as you said, everyone else's different reactions to the episode?
I thought they did such an amazing job because I felt like there were a lot of different phases in my life to touch on. And I felt like they also highlighted anesthesiologist assistants like beautifully. I thought like when I saw that part, I was so excited. I was so happy. I was like, yeah, like they did the map, they did everything with like showing how it looks. I thought they did an amazing job. I thought that my life would have been a little bit more in it, like the background part to it, because that's what's always felt like a little bit more personal to me and like what's influenced me. But they had to summarize like so many different parts of my life. And I think they did such a good job with it.
That's so interesting because I feel like, again, everyone's different take. I feel like the family piece was really central. I don't know that I picked up as much about the CAA stuff, maybe because I already know it. But the family piece with the working farm and going to the farmer's market and like just the struggle of your childhood and how that created your money mindset, I thought was almost the focus of it, less so than the CAA stuff. So that's so funny. I would love to hear what you think about now that it's been out in the world and the reactions that it's received.
I'm just so thankful, honestly, that it's had positive reaction. Like there are some comments that I read here and there, but like so many people were like, she worked so hard for this, like good for her and all this stuff. And I'm so happy that overall, like there are a few comments that I've seen, but overall people have been like, I'm so impressed by this. Like I shared it to like my child or like, like I have a daughter growing up and I'm sharing this story to them because it's not just like how much money you make, but like navigating your, the spending and all that stuff. So I think that has been really cool. And I don't know, I think it's weird because I'm kind of a quiet person. People know me, they're like, you're so quiet at work. And overall, I'm a little bit more introverted. So it's kind of cool to be like, cool, like people know a little bit more about me and like maybe understand my story a little bit more. So it's nice to feel like, okay, like people kind of see who I am. So it's nice.
Yeah, to see your life through someone else's eyes, like these producers and the editors created the story of your life kind of as they saw it and pulled out the really important pieces to them. I think it's really interesting to see how important one life can be when someone takes a focus on that life and says, look at this and look at this and look at this, and then creates this beautiful episode about it. It's just, it's really inspiring. And I think every human deserves to feel that way. And I think CAAs deserve to see ourselves represented in the media by people like you. I mean, I just think it's so expansive. I want to push a little bit on the few comments you've received that have not been super supportive. I guess, our negativity bias, we see the negative things and sort of focus on them. And the aspect I'm most interested in is seeing your ability to engage in that conflict or in that hater comment in a really neutral way. Like you give information back. There's no emotionality to your voice. And I just wonder what that came from, if that's been honed because of your YouTube channel, or if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yes, I think, well, one, my YouTube channel, two, my partner is like very, very humble. And so he also had like, a sort of like rough upbringing as well. And so he is like a super kind person. I think, he's amazing. So I always talk to him about my life, and like he helps me like, well, did you think about it from this person's perspective? So like just me going back and forth with him for the past 2 years, like this person did this today. And then he's like, what did you think about that? So like he kind of brings a different perspective. And so he had me like through our conversations, I feel like I've grown to like try to understand people's perspective, and like not like if I see someone that has more negative feelings towards me, I'm like, well, they might feel this way because of this. So like let me not like just attack back, but like, just present myself and like try to regulate my emotions and stuff. And just respectfully like give my side to things without like fully engaging with the negative parts that they're trying to bring. So
Yes, it is such. Your responses have been filled with so much wisdom in order for all CAAs to learn how best to interact in that conflict situation, because I do think a lot of CAAs feel like they have to defend our profession, and that can feel sometimes like a clashing. And you've done it so beautifully. If everyone just goes to read the comments of how you've reacted to these people, I just feel like I'm just really proud to say that this is what it means to be a CAA. And we're not trying to win over everyone's heart. We're just trying to live our life and give good anesthesia. And that means that like maybe not everyone's going to understand. And that's just how it's going to have to be.
yes. And I still get really angry. I mean, I still feel like all those things. But I try my best, like, okay, don't respond right away, think it through. And as angry as I can get, like, I also have to think about like I am partially representing a bigger part of, the world, I guess, like AA. So I don't want to be like, taken in a bad light, and people use that as any sort of negative thing to bring up in like a legislative hearing or anything like that. So I do my best to like, as angry as I am, like, let me try not to just engage with that anger back. It does also really frustrate me. And sometimes I have to be like, I'll talk to my partner or like my best friend here, and I'll be like, I'm so mad about this, and just put my phone down. And it does affect me, but I do my best to like not put that negative emotion and presentation out in the world.
Thank you so much for saying that very real thing, that the anger is still there. I just think that is very healing to hear for me and for everyone, that it doesn't mean we're robots. We still really, really care, and that hurts. And finding boundaries. It sounds like you've worked on finding boundaries and how you move forward, knowing that those are always going to be there because you have a YouTube channel in addition to this CNBC piece where you're really engaging and you're forward facing what it means to be a CAA. So yeah, I am grateful that you're there in our community and putting the work in to do all of this production on your own end for your own YouTube channel, and that you put your name in the hat and stepped up to the challenge to be on CNBC. Is there anything else you want to tell the listeners about this experience, or tell CAAs about this experience before we go?
Um, hmm. I just think that we all are doing our best to represent AAs in the world. And I think we just have to educate ourselves on like how safe we are, that we deserve, a seat at the table. And sometimes you have to fight for the table.
Mm-hmm.
I have an anesthesiologist I work with that he's so supportive. He's amazing. I'm so grateful that I work with him. But he, like, when we've talked, he's like, yeah, if you don't fight to sit at the table, sometimes you're the meal. So like, let's not be the meal. Sometimes we do have to put our voices out there. But I think we have to educate ourselves and know that like we deserve to be there. Like we're safe. There's so many other voices that have been against us for so long. And like now we have to like maybe slowly put ourselves out there to make sure that, that we have our place in the anesthesia world as well.
Yes, well said. If people want, well, first of all, I will put a link, of course, to your CNBC Millennial Money episode, and I'll put a link to CAA Lifestyle. But if CAAs are listening and they want to contact you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Mostly through my YouTube, but I also have my Instagram. I talked to some CAs through my Instagram for my YouTube, which is CAA Lifestyle. So that's probably the best way to like contact me for CA related stuff. But like I also have my personal Instagram, which I follow like a lot of CAs, mostly anyone that's I know is a CA. I usually follow them back. So if they want to
Wonderful. Okay, so wonderful. I'll put your Instagram for the CAA Lifestyle, which is the name of your YouTube channel, in the show notes so that anyone can DM you or follow you for more content there. And again, I just want to say thank you for putting yourself out there really vulnerably and bravely. And it matters. It really, really matters. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing my voice and sharing my story on your platform. I think you're doing a great job as well.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks. Let's talk soon. I hope you enjoyed hearing the behind the scenes of Chabely's journey on millennial money. I am going to put all of the links we mentioned in the show notes so that you can get in touch with Chabely if you have follow-up questions, so that you can watch her piece on CNBC, and so you can follow her on YouTube. She's got a lot of good content on financial independence and financial literacy on her YouTube channel, as well as day in the life CAA stuff that she mentioned she was looking for when she was a student. I'm so proud of the community that we're building here, and if you want to deepen your involvement with this community, I encourage you to use the link in the show notes and join the Awakened Anesthetist community. Right now, what that means is that you're going to get on my email list. I send an email out once every month, and it has curated CAA content, resources, ways to connect, and then wellness goodness that I put in there, kind of my personal journey with wellness and maybe what I'm encountering each month. I then give back to you. I am someone who loves to find resources and sometimes obscure resources and then share them with people, because it is such a joy for me to go directly to someone who knows something that I don't and just get the information straight from them and just like eliminate the 20 steps I would have had to do to find that information out for myself. So because I enjoy that, I enjoy doing that for other people. So if you want to have CAA content that is made by us and for us, I encourage you to use that link in the show notes. That's all from me. I hope you have a wonderful weekend if you're listening to this in real time. Let's talk soon.